Joe Pugh for Pep Talk UK. I'm joined today by trainer Shane Mcguigan. How are you, Shane?
Good, thanks, Joe.
All the better for seeing you today at the press conference for Daniel Dubois, Tommy Fury. Big announcement that they're going to be on the Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley card in Cleveland. So, little trip to Cleveland for you next month.
Yeah, it's gonna be different. It's gonna be interesting. I've been to shows and been involved in Showtime shows, and you know they do things really well. I've never been to Cleveland, Ohio, and I've never been on a YouTube undercard, so that's two news for me. But hopefully it's going to be a nice, enjoyable experience. And
obviously, your fighter Daniel Dubois is it's really a showcase for him on Showtime against Joe Cosimano. What are you expecting from the opponent?
He's got relatively fast hands, he's a big lump, and he looks like he can punch a bit. He's never really been stopped either, so he had 3 losses, but he hasn't been stopped. So it's going to be interesting, you know. It's a live fight. It's not an underdog fight or something like that. It's not like, obviously everyone's going to be expecting Daniel to look good, but sometimes these are the fights that you can slip up on and, you know, take your eye off the ball a little bit. But he's training really well. He sparred this morning. He sparred like last week twice with Lawrence Coley as well. He sparred with another big lump this morning. So yeah, we're in full swing. Daniel only had a week off after his last fight, and then he got straight back into the gym. And it's a good thing because, you know, he's well into his training now for this one.
What are your thoughts on YouTube fighting and fighters in general, Shane?
I think it has its ups and downs. I think they draw an amazing attraction towards the sport, which is great because they've got huge viewership. But at the same time, they can make a mockery of the sport if it's not match right. But the main event's match right, in my opinion, and this is what we want to see. You know, we don't want to see Floyd Mayweather, the greatest of all time boxer, guy that's 5 weight divisions above him that can't really fight. Yeah, we want to see a guy on Jake Paul that's actually dedicated himself towards the sport. He genuinely has. He's actually done plenty of sparring. And I'm sure he's doing all of the proper training with a guy like Woodley, who's also, you know, he's been there and done it in the cage. He's quite a decent stand-up fighter. Yes, there's a size advantage towards Jake Paul, but this Woodley can bang, and you know, it's genuinely a competitive, interesting fight.
Fantastic, and we'll take you back to last Saturday. Fight camp, good night for you in the end. Obviously Fowler and Billum Smith coming away with big wins. We'll start off with Anthony Fowler. You wanted him to get in rounds, that's what you got. Just a quick word on his performance in general. Yeah, I thought he was good. I think, you know, like, it was a bit lackluster at the start, but he got into the swing of things. He had a lot of stuff that happened before. You know, his missus had a baby, which is his first kid. He was obviously emotionally drained, and he spent a lot of time in the hospital. You know, during the labour as well. So, and then he had a change of opponent on fight week. Well, it happened actually on the Friday, but you know, I told him after the baby was born because I didn't want to melt his head. And then but you know, he couldn't really get up for it because, you know, he was expecting a different opponent, and he had this huge fight on the horizon. But you know, after 2 or 3 rounds, he started getting into the swing of things, and I thought he looked really good, and he went through the gears in the end to finish the fight. Yeah, you mentioned that huge fight, October 9th, Liam Beefy Smith against Anthony Fowler in Liverpool. That's going to be massive.
Yeah, mega fight, exactly. Fowler's a big personality. Smith is more than a big personality as well. You know, he really backs himself. So, 2 guys. You know, Fowler's a bit Marmite. People love him or hate him, and the ones that hate him are definitely going to be jumping on the Beefy Smith bandwagon. So, I'm sure there'll be a little bit of a needle on the build-up to this fight, but huge fight, and it's a must-win for Fowler.
Definitely. And your other fighter, Chris Billum Smith, got the decision in, I'm sure you'll agree, a close fight, but many say that he was the worthy winner. Is that your opinion?
Yeah, I think he forced the fight. He outworked him. He was a bit sloppy in times, but you know, he forced, like, when Chris stood back, he never, you know, McCarthy never forced the fight. You know, he just wanted to try and counter punch him the whole time, and you can't really win a fight just doing it. You have to be able to fill the gaps, initiate attacks, and he was, you know, McCarthy was the best he's been, in my opinion. Caught Chris a couple of good shots, but and he was defensively sound, but he just wasn't throwing back after Chris was sort of missing or landing. Do you know what I mean? So he was definitely the worthy winner. I mean, I had him up by 3 or 4 rounds. Do you know what I mean? But I'm always negative in the corners, and at the end I said, all right, well, being really harsh, Chris wins it by a round. So you can get swayed sometimes by the commentary, and the commentary was obviously looking at Chris and being quite biased towards Tommy McCarthy, because it's Andy Lee who's known him since he was a kid, McCarthy. So he couldn't help but be passionate towards Tommy. So that might have made it more of a close fight on people that were viewing it from home.
It was a great fight. Do you think we'll see the rematch?
I think so. I think it's a very credible fight, especially for the both of them. Like Chris, he's highly ranked at the world level, but I think he needs 1 or 2 more fights at this level before cracking on. He needs those real acid tests, those 12 rounders. This is the first time he's actually done 12 rounds. He was scheduled for 10 and did 10 against Riakporhe. He was scheduled for 10 and did 10 against Dukar, but then after that he's never actually done his 12 rounds. So this was a great experience for Chris.
Yeah, and I've got to ask you, obviously it was an awkward situation on fight week. Everyone saw that video with Carl Frampton as you was walking into the lift. Was there any other words exchanged throughout fight week?
No, nothing really. We kept ourselves to ourselves. That's just the way it is these days.
Was it awkward for you in the changing room with Carl being there?
No. I know Carl really well. He knows me really well, so we can't I would never let him wind me up, and he would never let me wind him up, because we're too savvy for it. It's just a shame that he tried to take those measures to try and do so. So it is what it is. Does it upset you and your dad that it's come to this? No.
Cool. And
he's just a part of my journey. That's all. I've got many fighters. I'm going to be training many more fighters, and he's just a part of my journey. Whether it ended well or bad doesn't make a difference to me.
Fantastic. And obviously the end of another journey with a fighter. Luke Campbell announced his retirement at the end of last week. Great career, Olympic gold, 2-time world title challenger. Just a word on his decision. Was you involved in the decision process?
Yeah, I was. I thought he did the right thing. He had a couple of cracks at the world title, boxed some really good guys. I think Ryan Garcia is a hugely underrated fighter. I think we're going to find out in time that he can really fight. Watching up close, I was really impressed with him. And he can bang as well. So boxing Lomachenko, boxing Linares, and boxing Ryan Garcia. Yes, he's come off second best on all 3. I thought he was unlucky against Linares, but he potentially could have boxed 3 Hall of Famers there. And you see a lot of world champions and guys that don't actually get the big fights. Whereas Luke, he had the big fights. He got well paid, and he's done amazing in the amateurs. He's probably the most decorated amateur of all time, coming out of Britain. So I thought if Pat had have won today, Pat McCormack had have won today, he probably would have pipped his achievements. But the 2 of them have, for instance, both those guys have done amazingly well. So Luke's done an amazing career, both as an amateur and professional. It's just a shame that he didn't win his world title. One of the best British fighters of all time to never win a world title, in your opinion? I think so, definitely. Yeah, I think so. It's just timing. It's just a hard division. I mean, there's plenty of fighters that are half as good as him that have won world titles. And finally, Shane, just a quick word on Lawrence Okoli. There was talk of him being out in the US. We don't know what the situation there with the holders' own scheduling. Canelo. Then there was whispers with him being on the AJ card. It's going to be most likely the AJ card. So we're just firming things up this week, but I'm sure there'll be announcements soon. So Canelo, the August 21st show got pushed back to middle of September because of Canelo, and then he's ended up potentially going to go on Fox, I think it is, or on a PBC show. So that sort of just made our decision for us. We thought we'd just maybe wait a couple more weeks and go on the AJ card, where it's huge exposure. And that'll be his mandatory challenger? Yes, Brasovic, Fantastic. Shane Mcguigan, thank you so much for giving me some of your time today at this press conference in the landmark hotel, and hopefully speak to you again soon. Perfect, thanks.